Two American hikers detained in Iran for 2 years won't be returning home anytime soon. They were sentenced to 8 years in prison. They were part of a group of 3 arrested for allegations of espionage. And there was a woman in that group, but she was released last year. And joining us this morning to talk about the hikers and some other legal headlines is our weekend attorney, Felix Vega. Welcome back.
Good morning, Narisa.
Good morning. We just talked about this. We were talking about those American hikers being held in Iran. Everyone was expecting them to be released after their very short trial back in July. Instead, yesterday, they were sentenced to 8 years in prison. And we know that they could have gotten the death penalty, but talk about what happened in the end here, Felix.
In the end, they got sentenced to 8 years, as you said. 5 years of that was for spying. The other 3 years was for illegal entry into Iran when they crossed the border in the northern part of the country. But this is a very serious situation because, as we talked about, the death penalty in Iran is very extreme. People can be either publicly hanged, they can be stoned, and they can even be thrown off a cliff in some instances for such allegations as rape. These are actually part of a study that was done by an international human rights group, and that's why I stress that it's actually a very serious situation for them. Now, the Iranian foreign minister a few weeks ago had signaled that they would be released after their trial was concluded. Now we're in the holy month of Ramadan, so we're going to wait and see whether or not in the next 10 days they could be released as part of some sort of Islamic pardon for the hikers. It's part of the diplomatic mission that's going on right now. Switzerland is actually the intermediary for the United States, so they've got 10 more days in Ramadan. They have 20 days to appeal their sentences, so that's where we're at, and still a developing story even at this late hour.
Wow, different rules, different countries.
Exactly.
Okay, now back here in the U.S., the West Memphis 3 case. I know a lot of people are intrigued about this one. Grabbed headlines again on Thursday. Let me remind you, this was that chilling case where 3 teenagers were tried and convicted in the 1994 brutal deaths of 3 Boy Scouts in Memphis. This happened a while back. There have been documentaries made about this case and the lack of evidence in the case, but now those teenagers are in their 30s and they have been set free. Now, this trial happened a while ago, as I said. How long has DNA evidence been used in court cases?
Well, first off, Damian Eccles, Jesse Miskelly, and Jason Baldwin, those are the 3 teens at the time that were sentenced. 2 of them were sentenced to life in prison. Damian Eccles was sentenced to the death penalty. So in 2007, what happened is they found DNA evidence related to the scene, but not tied to any one of them. So that's what led this to their release ultimately on Thursday. What they did is they entered a conditional guilty plea, and as you see right here, this is the form that they would have to fill out under Arkansas law. It's a conditional plea form that lets them basically plead guilty but maintain their innocence. All they have to do is admit that there may be some sort of evidence or enough evidence to convict them at some point in time. So what they can do now is focus on trying to clear their name and also try and go forward and maybe appeal to some degree. You're talking about DNA evidence back in 1987 here in Florida was the first time that DNA evidence was used to convict someone. 1989 was the first time that it was used to actually free someone. And here's some of the sources of DNA that nowadays can be used. You can get sweat off a baseball cap, the handle of a gun. Touch DNA has been really revolutionized, and even a drop of blood. If you break into a house, for example, and you cut yourself on one tiny piece of glass, your blood and a DNA profile can be made from that, and that can lead to your conviction. So this has become widely accepted now, and that's why back then they didn't have this technology, and the evidence had to be re-examined, and that's why they ended up going free.
Explain to me what touch DNA is.
Touch DNA basically is, for example, if you hold the handle of a gun, there's oils in your skin, there's also sweat on your skin that can be transferred to the actual surface of the gun, and this is new technology that's come out in probably the past 2 or 3 years. So when they swab the handle of the gun or they swab a surface, they can get a DNA profile, they match that against your DNA profile, and then they can use that as evidence. So it's really fascinating stuff.
That's beyond a fingerprint.
That's beyond a fingerprint, yes.
It's amazing.
It's really, yeah, it really is.
And that stuff lasts for a while.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much, Felix. There's more to talk about, but we ran out of time. Thank you so much. Let's get a check on the weather now with Sheena.
Hey, Narisa, going to be another hot day, hot and humid day.